You won the Booker Prize, one of the highly respected literary prizes in the world. How do you feel as a winner of the prize, and what are your reflections?
I think if you win a prize like this, the first thing you realize is how easy it would be not to win the prize. You realize how much, it's the whim of 4 or 5 people in a room, and subjective taste could so easily go this way or that way. And then you realize it has serious effect. It's so frightening to think that it's this fragile thing and a childish thing. Prizes are inherently childish, first best, second best. And you know it because you feel childlike pleasure. But the effect has really been quite serious in that it has changed my last few years. And it's really unfortunately changed by the fact that I'm not writing anymore at all. No, I've stopped being a writer.
So just
a traveler. Yes. So it's wonderful, fun, but I begin to now. I'm a bit worried because I realize I need to get back to my desk and become that odd introverted creature again.
Where did your travel take you?
All over, to Sri Lanka, for example, Sri Lankan book fair. These book fairs are multiplying all over the world, which is such a heartening thing, given that the newspaper headlines are the novel is dead, and you realize actually the novel could not be dead. People are going to book festivals more, I think, than they've ever been. Well, I think all writers are experiencing this sort of happy, this happy occasion of book festivals in places like Sri Lanka, which never had one before. India has one now. The publishing world in India is growing bigger. It's completely the opposite scene of what they're saying, say in New York. Saying people are buying fewer books. In India, they're buying more and more books. I've been to book festivals in Brazil, South Africa, Colombia, China, Hong Kong, so in Europe, all over Europe, of course. I go to one in Mexico quite soon. So yeah, it's really, really wonderful to see the world like this through books, through book people.
Your last book is Inheritance of Loss. What did you want to say with the book?
I think that when I'm trying to simplify it and put it into a few words, it really is about the emotional result of many generations having gone back and forth between East and West, to the point where I don't even think you can talk of the East and the West in terms of these blunt terms anymore, because I think the rifts and the contradictions and even the happiness, the richness of these two words, they've been much more deeply absorbed. And I grew up in a very westernized family in India, and certain parts of the Indian landscape felt very much a foreigner in my own country. And I live in New York now, and it's a city where you really have to think hard about what multiculturalism means, what it means to take people from a poorer part of the world, from the East, put them in the Western setting, how the imbalance between these notions, the imbalance between classes, rich countries, poor countries, how that perversity begins to affect anyone negotiating the world today, really, how that imbalance manifests itself in a personal sphere and political sphere, both.
Your first book was Hullabaloo, and then Inheritance. Was there any changes in your literary style between those two books?
Very much. I think Hullabaloo was an attempt to hold on to a version of India and a childhood vision of India, a sweet world, a sweet vision of what it meant to be Indian, something that I thought I was losing as I became an immigrant. And in a way it was nostalgic. It was a nostalgic picture. And when I started writing my second book, I think I undid that picture very much. I wrote against my first book and undid that notion of community and home, of sweetness, of certainty, of place, of belonging. All of that I took away and left myself in a much shakier in a much shakier place.
So you flip the coin.
Yes, and I think in attempting to write about home and identity in a way that seemed more truthful to my own life, I really undid all those notions for myself, and the world seems, I can't walk as if the world is firm under my feet anymore.
Where is your home? Is it India, New York?
I think I less and less believe in the notion of home.
Well, you do travel around the world.
And I really wonder how much it really holds true. For me, certainly, because of the way I live. But even when I begin to examine places where people seem to be very certain of the place and their belonging in it, and their notion of the country they belong to and the flag, and of course I'm talking here of the United States where I live in now, where they're fighting for their belief in that, in what it means to be American. And I, of course, see so many holes in that picture. I look at it and I think, first of all, the land belonged to someone else, belonged to other people altogether. The borders have been redrawn. It's quite interesting that people are the border with Mexico is it's fortified, barricaded, and of course that landscape was once Mexico. It was a border that moved. I think of who's fighting the war in Iraq, and often the soldiers are recruited from Ecuador in exchange for citizenship. And they're really foreigners fighting an American war. So you can pick holes in this notion very easily. And this notion of belonging or of purity of place, I think for anyone, it's shaky. And I began to examine it not only in an American setting, but going back to India and talking about what it means in an Indian landscape as well. Also a place of shifting borders and moving populations.